You know, just as I was getting ready to do my next vinyl video, I realized that there were yet more funk albums that I had from the 70s, and because so many of them would actually go into their own other category, I decided to devote these particular 10 records, all from the early to late 70s, to basically funk and soul primarily. And there's actually a little bit of a cheat on here, because the first album you're going to see is from 1969. And I've only seen this twice, and the second time I picked it up. Baby Dynamite, Carolyn Franklin. I believe this is one of 2 or maybe 3 solo albums she put out in the late 60s and early 70s. It's similar to her sister Aretha. I haven't heard anything from her, from Franklin's sister Irma. But this album has a much grittier, funkier street edge to it. I don't know what kind of label this had, if I remember. It's a very unusual label, so I'll take it out. And it isn't just a regular RCA label. I don't know why I remember that label being so strange or unique or whatever. The next band I'm going to show you are Redbone. I only knew them for years by their 1973 hit, Come and Get Your Love, and I always thought that they were a soul group, and in a way they are. This is led by the Vegas Brothers, and is, as far as I know, the first Native American rock band. And this is their debut album from 1970, and it's a double album. I love the inside art to this. I was first tipped off to Redbone as artists by my friend Ben Minot over at Oddity Archive on YouTube. Hey there, Ben. Little shout out to you. And Redbone, a lot of people classify them as a rock band, but like Santana or Chicago or Blood, Sweat and Tears, you know, they've got jazz in there, they've got Cajun music and Zydeco and funk and soul influences. This album is really all over the map in terms of what it is. There's Redbone, as they appeared when they first came out. It's on the standard late 60s, early 70s Epic label. Glad I found this double album. The next album in my collection is another one by Redbone, Message from a Drum. This is from 1971. Another gatefold. This time with the members of the band inside. Another really impressive album by this band. And there's an even better picture of them. Sorry about the ring wear. Second Redbone album, 1971, I believe. The Miracles. Just to give you a heads up, this is the first Miracles album without Smokey Robinson. They added a new lead singer, William Griffin, pictured up on the top, who had a very different kind of falsetto, a little more high-pitchy in some ways, but I've been looking for this album for a long time. Smokey Robinson wrote a little bit of a testimonial in here with a character called the Skeptic. Seemed to indicate what might or might not happen when Smokey Robinson left the Miracles. I'll tell you, from what I've heard of this album, the Miracles were still in a pretty good place. Smokey Robinson was still the executive producer for one thing, and that probably helped. On Motown Records, the album is called Renaissance, the first Miracles album with William Griffin as the lead singer. My boyfriend, Scott Edwards, gave me a vinyl copy of this album. This is one of my favorite albums ever. I mean, it's Earth, Wind and Fire. You know, Maurice White said it was a hard album for them to do because their original mentor, Charles Stepney, had died while they were making this. You know, when you talk about this album, you're talking about Get Away, the song Spirit, Saturday Night. They even have a song, which is another excellent song, by the way, called Earth, Wind and Fire on this. Just the standard Columbia label. But on the inside it has this little pyramid design, which you do not get on the CD, at least not the one I have, and lyrics. And Maurice White's little dedication. With every band, the departure of spirit must take place. It is a destiny that is inevitable. We, Earth, Wind, and Fire, were blessed to have a gifted spirit work among us. He is now departed to the next plane. He left us much beauty and inspiration for humanity to feed upon. The works in this album are dedicated to Brother Charles Stepney, 1931 to 1976. May God embrace his spirit with love. Maurice White. R.I.P. Charles Stepney, of course, and R.I.P. Maurice White. The Tavares, Sky High. You know, this is an album that I basically just got only a few days ago. This record is one that I have passed over and over again, not knowing that, you know, this had a song on it that I actually liked and loved, but for some reason I thought it was by a female artist. I don't know why. And it was called Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel. I've heard it over and over again on the radio. And it's an EMI Capital from 1976. Glad to have this in my collection. Like the Tavares on the Tavares. I used to call them the Tavares. The Tavares on the Hollywood sign. Tavares again. Tavares 5, Love Storm. This album is 1977. In a similar manner to Heatwave, they had monogram sweaters. There's the Tavares in the back. Looking pretty important, fellas. Roberta Flack, a self-titled album from 1978. It's kind of interesting. It's a little more modern for her. It was around the time of the Blue Lights in the Basement album, actually about a year after. I don't know how successful this album was. I used to see it a lot, but, you know, I don't think it's very common, but it's a good album. I really enjoy it. It even has some kind of slightly funkier touches. She usually has that soft, subdued style. But I really like this album. Kind of a classic picture of her. Angela Bofill, Angel of the Night. Her first album, Angie, was terrific, and this 1979 album is even more amazing. This woman has a voice somewhere between Etta James and Phoebe Snow. To me, Angela Bofill is maybe one of the last heavy, throaty soul funk singers to emerge in the 70s. There she is again. This album really goes for the funk hard. It's on GRP. Let's see if we can see an early GRP label. And there's an early GRP label from the late 70s. I think Tom Brown's first album had a GRP label like that. She was one of the first artists on the GRP label, if I actually recall. And next up, here's another album that I ignored over and over again. Diana Miss Ross, The Boss, 1979. This is an Ashford and Simpson production, and one of her classics. You know, I love a lot of mid to late 70s Diana Ross, and I don't know why I didn't have this 1979 album, but I do now, so that's where that end of my collection is at. So, I don't know if I'm going to do it in the next video, but as soon as I get around to it, I plan to do a collection of my funk and soul albums from the 1980s, and there seem to be enough of those to a certain extent that I could probably do a couple of volumes, maybe 3 at most on that. Hopefully 1 or 2 if I can whittle it down. But this is my collection of 70s, well actually late 60s funk and soul vinyl, and probably my last for a very, 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 very long time. So I'm going to be doing some other projects later, some requests. So I want to give a shout out to Daddy Sensei Silver. I also wanted to give a shout out to Fat City Vinyl. I finally got your name right this time, Doug Armstrong. thank you, and thank you for everybody else who have supported my channel. My boyfriend, Scott Edwards, my friend, Henry Hopkins, if you're watching, all of you. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Peace.